and one back here. And the problem was that they told different times.
That's why I put two of the atomic clocks in the town hall.
Yeah, but this one was not a time.
Yeah.
This was
I
like,
thought both of them.
this one was on local time. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I would like to call the meeting to order of the town board of the town of Northeast. It is August 11th, 2022, 7 p.m. And I would like to ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tilly, would you please conduct a roll call
Yes. Supervisor Cannon,
here?
Councilwoman Morrison. Here. Councilman Fidelis,
Here.
Councilman Midwood,
Here.
Councilman Cooper.
Okay. The agenda has been sent to everybody, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Severe, I see you're here, so we take you right away so that you can get on with your day.
Did everyone get a copy?
No, I don't know if you sent that to me, but I did. Okay.
It's okay. I got extra.
It will, we'll send the electric version of it to the clerk and then it'll end up on the website.
All right, so there was a total of 28 calls that we handled. 15 were in the town, 13 were in the village, and there were 0 arrests. I wrote over on the top on the right-hand side, the 21 calls. For the year 2020, there was 21 in the town, 25 in the village, and 1 arrest, totaling 46.
So that was a year ago,
Yes, sir.
July, basically,
July.
right?
Yes,
A lot busier.
absolutely.
We were still in COVID.
Correct.
Maybe that was the problem.
Okay.
Uh-huh. All right. So when and something is entered as town as opposed to village, is that when the event was initiated, or when it was like, for instance, if a car started in the village without its lights on at night, ended up, you stopped it, but it was already in the town. Does that end up as a town or a village?
So wherever it would start, it's something like that, but traffic, citations and traffic stops, we don't do SJS or reports on that. So just if that turns into an arrest or anything more than that. So just someone getting stopped by the police, that does not create an incident. Unless
Oh.
something comes more of that.
Okay,
So most of the ones, I mean, if they're 911 calls or anything like that, we already know where they are at the town or the village. But
okay. So all of these are something that resulted in something,
correct,
something happened.
correct. Whether someone called us or shoplifting on there, EMS, assist other agencies, whatever they are, they actually happen.
And when you get an assist other agencies, has that usually for the county, for the sheriff, or other towns?
Yeah, it could be either. I mean, it could be another town, it could be the sheriff's office, could be the state police. A lot of the ones here assist DCSO or we see DCSO. We assist them with order protections or anything like that when they serve them in the town or the
Mhm.
village.
Okay. Do you end up getting called down to Armenia much?
No.
No.
I mean, if there's a call down in the meeting, we don't go unless there's an officer safety thing. We know up here, there's not a lot of, officers. So if there's one officer going to a call that's depending on what the call is, domestic or something like that, officer safety is priority. So we will go assist them. But if it's just a traffic stop or something like that, no, we won't go.
Okay. All righty. Any member of the board have any more questions? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My comments. A bunch of things. I always usually start with a comment about COVID rates. in the county, and I use the county's dashboard as a fairly reliable, consistent indicator of where we are. And I think the number that I follow is the number of cases of COVID per 100,000 residents. And that has held fairly consistent over the past few months in the sort of 20 to 30 range. It's, I think, 30 at the moment, but it's been there before. It's been below, it's been above. It's hard to see any real trend there. It's, I think we're doing well in general. And I think the county's done a good job of getting information out. And what we have done here is to, first of all, have an ample supply of COVID test kits, courtesy of the county. I went over and got resupplied about a week ago. And we encourage people just to stay informed and to use good judgment in order to protect themselves and others. A few other things that I wanted to mention. We have been working on issues connected with affordable housing, and the town was offered a mini grant by Hudson River Housing and the Foundation for Community Health to take on a particular subject, and other towns were also offered this. And so there are 3 separate little projects going on in Millerton. One of them is the one that we're engaged in. The library has one, and I think Tri-Town has one. I think they're the 3. Our focus is to develop information on what resources, what tools a municipality has to create affordable housing. So obviously we can't go out and build housing. We can't order something to build housing, but we need to know, because people ask us, well, what have you done about it? And I think it's going to be very helpful for the board to have a better sense of what actually is within our reach as a municipality. And we have had a number of meetings of this small little committee. Griff is on the committee, and Christine Sargent is on, as well as Paul from NECC. Meg Winkler is on that. And the result of the work will be a public meeting, which is going to be held at the Library Annex on Saturday, September 17th, probably from 9 to 11 or something like that. And we are inviting the other towns immediately adjacent to us. So we're inviting board members from Armenia and from Pine Plains and from Stanford, as well as from the village. And so the primary audience is us. The public obviously is going to be invited as well, but it is really going to be aimed at municipal officials. And so that's, I'll get that date out to everybody again, but that's going to be, I hope everybody will be able to attend, and I think it'll be very useful because the information is very succinct and very clear. We have had, people may have noticed that we have at least one food truck that is set up in the town. And one of the things that we've been trying to find out, and it's interesting because it's not very clear, is how exactly food trucks get regulated. And in particular, there are food trucks that come once in a while that might come for special event and so on. And then there are food trucks that just set up. And I think it's important for us to know that, who they are, and that they've gotten health department, county health department inspection. I think that's important. So it's one of the things we're researching. Tilly's been doing some work on it, and we will be coming back to the board with more information.
Is this the one on 22 and
And
199?
Yeah. And there's been ones there before,
Yeah.
different ones.
Yeah.
And, you know, I welcome them. I think it just would be nice to know that a food truck is actually inspected by somebody, and I do believe it's the county. But that's, anyway, it's something that we need to know more about. It sort of falls into the same category as the vendors who sell fireworks. You know, they come around once a year and they want to set up a tent somewhere and we have to sort of, we're always scrambling to find out exactly how we permit those. I've been up working on getting a parking lot up at Rudd Pond Road for the rail trail. I have met, since we last met, I met with the property owner up there again. And the property owner is still willing to consider selling some of their land. And the Rail Trail Association is working with us on this. And I think that once we are able to acquire that piece of land, that we'll be able to finish that project. I think the board knows that I've met probably a year or more ago with county executive about this. And he had basically said, if you can get the property away from the landowner, the property owner, ultimately the state can own it and the county will prepare it or fix it up if you guys then maintain it. And I said, in theory, that sounded very good to me, and that's the way we've sort of been proceeding. We did have, I'm gonna butcher his name, but I think it's Matt Dukovich from DPW, from County DPW, who came out and looked at the site and felt that it's very doable for once we acquire it, for the county to help, whether it's degraded, but there's all these steps. It has to be surveyed. There's some probably some lot line adjustments, et cetera, et cetera. So, but it's moving forward. I think we're going to get there. And when the Rail Trail Association is able to acquire it, then I think things are going to move really well. It's really, excuse me, it's really important for us because parking is a problem for the rail trail, and people park on Rudd Pond Road. They park on White House Crossing Road, in the road, push baby carriages down the road with traffic going by at 55 miles an hour. It's not a good idea. So anyway, we'll keep you posted on that. I wanted also to mention to the board that we have a parcel of property that the town owns on Rudd Pond Road. It is 0.6 of an acre. It's vacant land, and the board at a recent meeting voted to authorize the town to sell the parcel. Since then, and before we started to do that, we've been approached by Habitat for Humanity of Dutchess County, which is interested in looking at the potential for them to have a house built on that site. They invited me to go and look at a Habitat house in Wappinger, which is just in the process of being completed. It's in the village of Wappinger. And so I went and saw it, and it's really very impressive. The family that have moved into it is, going to be taking ownership of it, taking care of it, paying taxes. I was very impressed by the quality of the building. It was a manufactured, essentially, unit brought in on trailers. So this is not Jimmy Carter putting up, getting his hammer out to hammer nails, but it's quite affordable for that reason. And I'm interested in learning more about it. I'm interested in getting feedback from the board as to how we feel about it. They have offered the town, it is assessed at $45,000, the piece of property, 0.6 of an acre. the town has been offered 25,000 by Habitat for Humanity. And I would like, before our next meeting, to have a chance to bring more information to the board and hopefully to, for us to make a decision whether we want to do that with Habitat or whether we want to just put it on the market. I wanted to mention also the landfill that we have. As the board knows, we've been talking about entertaining, well, we've received a proposal from a solar company who was interested in helping us to develop a solar array on our landfill, our 15-acre landfill down in Reagan Road. I've now made 2 visits down to the landfill, so I'm getting to know it. Thank you, Bob, for making that possible. And it is feasible. It is, I guess, at the outer limits of distance from a substation. So there's a question as to whether it's really how well that will work, but we're going to get more information on that. I'm interested in pursuing the possibility. I think it would be a benefit to the town because it would provide the town with income over a predictable number of years, and it potentially could provide a percentage reduction in utility bills for most of the residents of the town. That is one of the options that the solar companies will give you, is that there's an offset to some portion. That might be 10% of utility bills. So we're sort of looking at this, sort of moving forward on a relaxed basis, not rushing into anything. Let me see where we are with our hearing. Bob, I think I'm gonna, well, we've got a minute. I think that is most or all of the things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. That's going to be part of the highway. So we have a couple minutes. Maybe we'll just quickly talk about highway.
Everything's going well. We're working on our oil and stone project right now. We
Yep.
have a lot of drainage work lined up. We're going to be hoping other towns paying them back for their help, paving projects in oil and stone.
Okay. We have, as everybody knows, a big highway garage project going on up there. And that is, I think it's a big project. And the exciting thing is that we started pouring concrete for the foundations today. So the pour was complete, and CPL, the engineers, were there on the site. I'm happy to report that George Kay was also on the site. Making sure that things are being done right. And that is moving along. The plan is to pour the foundation and the walls, but to defer pouring the slab until the spring. The building is not supposed to be delivered now until at the earliest March because of the delays in materials and so on. And there has been a concern about the potential for damage to the slab if it sat out all winter long with frost heaves and so on. So that is moving. And since we last met, the county announced its municipal investment grants. And I'm happy to report that the town was awarded another grant towards the highway garage, to complete the fencing around the site. We currently have fencing only along the front, and we don't have an electronic gate for the site, which is a problem. And this grant of $141,000 is going to be very helpful to the town. So we're grateful to the county for that. One other quick thing on highway garage, there is a New York program called Restore New York it's a grant program which provides funds very specifically for demolishing municipal buildings that are no longer useful and which are a blight or have some kind of environmental issue. The old highway garage, which obviously is still in use and will be in use until well into next year, qualifies on almost every aspect of that. And I would like to explore, investigate applying for that grant. I have submitted today an intent to apply, which is just a placeholder, just says we're thinking about applying. Okay, we will, does the assessor have a report for today?
I do.
You do, in
I
that case,
read, but I don't mind reading.
well, we do have a public hearing scheduled for 7:20. It is 7:20. So this is a public hearing on local law number 1 of 2022 to rescind the board's decision to opt out of cannabis dispensaries. And the local law number 1 has been published. It's been for view on the website, on the town's bulletin board. And I would like to ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Okay, could you poll the board on that?
Yes. Supervisor Cannon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison. Aye. Councilman Fidelli,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open, and is there anybody who's here to speak about this law, potential law? Do we have anybody?
If anyone on online wants to speak, use the raise hand feature. And I'll unmute you.
No.
Let's see.
All right, in that case, let me just give it another 2 seconds. In that case, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want to pull us again?
Sure. Okay,
I'll get over this.
it's okay. Supervisor Cannon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison. Aye. Councilman Fidelli,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper.
Aye.
We skipped over in the interest of time, and we'll go back to, we dealt with highway. We've done that. Catherine, your assessor report, we do that now?
Sure. Copy, short and sweet. Just a couple things. I've been at the last couple meetings, so I just want to let you know what's been going on all summer. We had our grievance day on May 25th. It went fairly well and smoothly. We had 8 property owners that came in. The rest either mailed in, settled ahead of time, or actually withdrew their grievances. before
How many
grievance day.
grievances did you get?
We
total?
had a total of 35 complaints, and that was 30 property owners. So some people had multiple properties. And, we were worried with the big project we did this year that there'd be significant number of grievances. So that's actually a pretty low number. The last 2 years I went back and I looked, and I think it was 24 and 27 grievances respectively. So just a little tick
Yeah.
higher, so not too bad. The determinations were sent out, the final roll was updated, and our roll was finalized on July 1st. It's physically available at the Assessor's Office and the Town Clerk's Office online with a link on our website, and also parcel access is updated. That's the easiest way to find all that information. On June 2nd, we received our 100% equalization rate from the state after they analyzed my tentative roll and determined that our values with all the increases verified our assessments at 100% of market value. And after filing the final roll on July 3rd, we received a special change in level factor showing that our overall assessment roll moved just a tick over 10%. As you remember, we had our residentials moved 12 and our commercial and vacants moved 7. So in their analysis, the overall assessment movement was 10%. And that's significant because what that did was have them reevaluate our exemption amounts, particularly our star exemption amounts, which haven't changed much over the years. In fact, for many years, we're ticking downwards, having a less and less of an exemption value. And this year, our enhanced and basic star exemptions increased 20.5% and 13.8% respectively. When compared to 2 years ago, we had a 2.5 and 1.2% increase only. So that is definitely all due to the increases in market values and the work that we did getting those corrected up and on the roll. So that's the plus for all our residents. And then finally, wrapping all that up, in the end, we were served with 3 certiorari filings. Only one is a new one. 2 are actually ones that are hanging out from last year that we're still working on settling. So that's also good news. And then we had 4 small claims assessment review filings. All 4 of those were from a tax grievance firm down on Long Island, not actually from any residents that were unhappy with their determinations. In fact, one of those 4 spoke to the property owner and he actually had withdrawn his complaint. So these firms their process is to pay for the town with grievances and see what they can get. So I'm not too worried about those. And yesterday was actually the deadline for them to be town to be served. So that should be all we have this year.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Okay.
The planning, zoning, and building department reports were presented to the board by the clerk.
Mhm.
I'm going to come back to committee later. Now, we have had a public hearing on the cannabis issue, but I would like to ask if for anybody who wishes to make public comment on an agenda item only. At this point, we will have public comment again at the end. So we're going to have a lot of public comment today. Hearing.
Anyone online, just raise your hand if you have want to make a comment.
Okay, in that case, I would like then now to bring up the resolution to approve local law number 1. This is the rescind the opting out. And let's see, I think I would like to ask Tilly to read it,
Okay.
and I'll get you water if you want.
I'm okay, thank you. Okay. Resolution adopting local law number 1 of the year 2022, rescinding local law number 2 of the year 2021, which was entitled a local law opting out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries as authorized under the New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4. Whereas on March 31st, 2021, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, legalizing adult use cannabis, also known as marijuana or recreational marijuana, in New York State. The legislation creates a new Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, governed by a Cannabis Control Board to oversee and implement the law, collectively referred to as OCM. The OCM will issue licenses and develop regulations outlining how and when business can participate in the new industry. The OCM will also oversee the state's existing medical marijuana program and cannabinoid hemp program, previously regulated by the Department of Health. And whereas the New York State law provides that towns can opt out of allowing adult use cannabis retail dispensaries and/or on-site consumption facilities from locating within their jurisdiction, but to do so, the municipality had to pass a local law by December 31st of 2021. And if the town failed to do so, the town would be unable to opt out at a future date. And whereas the Town of Northeast Town Board determined that it was in the best interest of the town to opt out of the on-site retail dispensaries within its jurisdiction. And whereas the town board duly adopted local law number 2 of the year 2021, which was entitled a local law opting out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries as authorized under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4. And whereas the local law was duly filed with the Office of the Secretary of State on November 5th, 2021, and whereas the said local law was also duly filed with the Office of Cannabis Management as required by law, and whereas the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act provides in relevant part what a municipality that is opted out of allowing town retail dispensaries as authorized under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4, may reverse that decision by enacting a local law, rescinding the local law, opting out under cannabis retail dispensary law. And whereas the town board has now determined that it would be in the best interest of the town and its citizens to allow for cannabis retail dispensaries to be located within the town of Northeast, subject to reasonable zoning regulations as authorized under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4. And whereas the attorney to the town prepared a local law rescinding local law number 2 of year 2021, which has been reviewed and approved by the town board for purposes of commencing the local law adoption process. Whereas the town board accepted local law number, it'll be number 1 of the year 2022, entitled a local law rescinding local law number 2 of the year 2021, which was entitled a local law opting out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries as authorized under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4, for purposes of commencing the local law adoption process. And whereas the town board scheduled a public hearing on the adoption of said local law for August 11th, 2022 at 7:20 p.m. at the town of Northeast Town Hall. And whereas that the town clerk published and gave notice of the said public hearing as required by law and made a copy of the local law available for review by the public on the town's website. And whereas the town board conducted an environmental review in conjunction with the adoption of local law number 2 of the year 2021 and determined that the said local law would not result in any adverse impacts on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement need not be prepared. And whereas the town board has determined that the rescission of said local law will not result in any additional significant environmental impacts which require a reopening of the seeker review for this local law, but notes that when the town adopts this local law and adopts amendments to its zoning code to allow for cannabis retail dispensaries with the town subject to regulation, that a further seeker review will be required. And whereas the town board closed the public hearing on August 11th, 2022, and whereas the town board has determined that the adoption of this local law would be in the best interest of the town of Northeast and its citizens, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts local law number 1 of the year 2022, rescinding local law number 2 of the year 2021. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to file a copy of this local law with the Department of State as required by law and with the New York State Cannabis Control Board as also required by New York State laws, rules, and regulations.
Thank you very much. Love those words. Now therefore. Is there any comment by the board at this point? We talked about it at our last meeting. Discussed it in some way. If there isn't, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Tilly, could you conduct a roll call on this?
Supervisor Kennen,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper,
Aye.
Councilman Fidele,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison.
Aye.
I would like to jiggle the schedule around a little bit and to ask Rich Stalzer to present his broadband report, or to walk us through it at least. The members of the board have paper copies, Rich, just so you know. And I thought it would be interesting for Legislator Colbert to also hear your report. So that's why I'm moving it up in front of his speech.
Thank you for giving me time tonight to present this update. I was last in front of Rich Stalzer, Chair of the Broadband Access Advisory Committee. Andrew in the audience is a member of that, and the third member is Claire Goodman is not available tonight. But you may recall that I was here in January presenting the results of a community survey we did. That survey had 159 responses and indicated that some areas in town had no high-speed internet, but large sections of the town we didn't have any survey data from. So we recommended that the town retain a consultant to drive all the roads and know which properties don't have high-speed internet on the poles. So the town did do that after the meeting. Wilderness Solutions did that. They sent their findings, which I put on a interactive Google map, and if you have the PDF version of that, it's linked in there. But a picture of that map appears on the next page, a map of surveys. A little over 1,900 properties. They started off by pulling the address database from Dutchess County for a town and working off of that. So not all of these have structures, and not every parcel is included because some parcels are not yet addressed. But it shows that most of the town is covered with LTs, over 1,800 yellow dots on the map that show a home with cable internet. There's some with blue, that's CCI or the old Taconic Telephone. CCI is now the holding company that owns those properties. And red is no options. That's 59 properties in town. And those 59 properties are in 4 clusters. Culver's Corner, Culver's Road, which is mostly an ag operation with empty fields. Route 199 has 9 properties. Route 83 has 4 properties, and Cullen Station, there's 38 properties down there. Actually, we asked the assessor to go through the list of 59, and 17 of those had no structures on them. But most of them, 3/4 of them had residences. So we're talking about, some of these just might be fields. Of the 59, most of them have buildings on them.
So just to be clear, so these are properties where there isn't high-speed connection out at the street.
Right.
Okay, because obviously we were talking earlier about some properties with very long driveways where it's there on the street, but
There are certainly
it's burdensome.
there are people who probably cannot afford to pull it onto their property given where it passes, but that was beyond what this consultant was able to do. That's a little bit discretionary on the cable company if they want to invest in that run or if they want to charge the owner to run the wire up. So, having determined that there are about 59 properties, we looked to both Optimum and CCI to provide us with quotes to tell us how much it would cost to wire those. CCI came back with almost 400,000. That would be new fiber to those locations. Optimum has not provided a quote. They're very unresponsive to this process. They suggested that every customer contact them individually. Doesn't help from a town perspective.
Is that, I've seen some emails back and forth recently where.
Yes, I am still trying to get someone in government relations or customer relations to take this process seriously.
It doesn't surprise me. I think there are a lot of others around who have had a lot of frustration dealing with LTs.
Understood.
But I think it's interesting that we have now a number and a list of properties which don't have high speed, which are not served out of the street by high speed internet.
Right.
And we have a number, if we had a spare 400,000, they would be willing to do it.
CCI would be willing to do this work, yes, they would. And then the next page is CCI code is broken down. It's not, Cullen Station is a big chunk of it. Route 83 with their 4 houses at 150,000 is a huge chunk of it because they're so remote from any fiber that the telephone company has out there. But Culver's Road and Route 199 are much smaller numbers, but I'm not advocating that the town go ahead with this. I'm just saying, since there's stimulus money floating around, this is what it would look like to fill in the gaps. There's a footnote here, Cullen Station might be 60,000 less, so this whole thing 60,000 less than another customer in that area did a private circuit with them. Since if that customer went ahead, and they wouldn't tell us if it's in our town or just happened to go through the roads. But if they're already pulling fiber, it wouldn't cost as much for them to put more for us.
So I think this is very useful, because I know I've had specific property owners who have come and said,
Yes.
why can't our area why can't you just do our area?
Mhm.
And I think it's important for the board to see. It'd be very difficult to say, well, okay, we'll do, the Route 199 properties, and we're gonna leave the rest. We're not gonna address the rest.
I had a long conversation with a resident on Route 83 that you put in contact with me.
Right.
True. And we had surveys from 199 and Pullman Station where people have said, I can't get internet. So we know that these people know they can't get internet. Some other recent things, the PSC, New York State Public Service Commission, recently updated what they call their broadband map. It's their best guess of who has coverage based on what they've gotten from utilities, of their own field work and customer complaints. And comparing here, town of Northeast versus Dutchess County in general, per the PSC, they think that 10% of Northeast is unserved. And in Dutchess County in general, it's less than 4%. So we're an outlier even within Dutchess County. Of course, we don't think it's 10%, but it's their number. They didn't drive the streets. So, and we don't know what they're basing this on, if this is parcels or addresses or residences. We don't know their methodology for determining the percentage. But the number of properties on their map is less than we mapped. So I believe that they try to back out as many things as possible. Councilman, maybe I'll have to leave the last time you asked me about if we ever considered building out a fiber network. Just an update that I'm aware of an effort in Sharon, which seems to be about the same size, 1,750 homes, 117 miles of road. They hired a consultant to pay them to do the engineering to build their own internet. They came up with $12.5 million capex, $500,000 a year recurring costs. An idea to do a 40-year bond and what the mill rate of that will be. It's a huge expense. So, I mean, we're not that different in Sharon, but if we say, hey, let's walk away from Optimum and say, we're going to do our own thing. That is the kind of number we're thinking. It's huge. And at the end of that, people can pay $89 a month for internet in Sharon. No cable service. I mean, no TV on top of that. So, it's not, well, if they paid it, everybody would have it for free. They would still have to subscribe. The last I'll suggest some next steps for this committee. So we continue to monitor the Build Back Better program, see if there's opportunities to use federal funds to fill in the gaps here. I believe that New York State EDC will be the lead organization for taking applications and evaluating them, but the process is not developed yet. Continue to try to work with Optimum to get someone on to take us seriously and give us these numbers. But again, I've been doing that for a year. I don't know that will ever happen. But I hold out the fact that I know that they can do it cheaper than CCI because their wires are a lot closer to these homes than the telephone company's fiber is. And we could also consider sharing what we actually know with New York State PSC to try to make their map better. And that's my update. Questions?
No, I was gonna say, thank you for all your work you put into this. This is great information to have.
Right. If Chris is willing to share the PDF, the map you can drill right down to its home. So that, I gave you the 1,000-foot snapshot, but you can get counts everywhere.
I'll make sure that everybody's got a copy of it. I mean, to me, I'm very proud of the work that the committee has done. Because I do feel that we're ahead of most towns in being able to actually show you a map with exactly where the unserved properties are. And which we can basically tell you which ones they are. And that's been, we started off by, as Rich said, by surveying, just doing a voluntary survey of who had service, who didn't. We got some responses, but it certainly wasn't scientific.
No.
And people who didn't do those things regularly certainly wouldn't participate. So,
And it seems like less than 10% of our residents responded.
yeah, so we have been, you've worked with a group out of Pine Plains that was doing some work
Yes.
in the beginning.
Yep.
So we've shared information with other towns, and I just think we at least know what we don't know now, and we know, I would love to continue to pursue LTs and see, there may be other resources that we could use to put pressure on them to give us an answer. We're not looking at the county, but we're maybe thinking about the county. Well, anyway, this will segue very nicely into legislator Fowler's presentation. But anyway, thank you, Rich, for all the work that you've done on this. It's a lot, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg?
Well, I guess let's start with broadband.
Yeah, start with broadband. Anyway, we're
So
happy to have you.
Well, thank you. As you may or may not know, the county did spend $1 million of
I went to
American Rescue Plan money to do our own survey, and that's being conducted at the time. Our idea is that we would come with some sort of a partnership with towns and the utilities, whoever they may be, to figure out how to get that what we call the last mile, those houses that are not, or there's not enough density to make it worth a company's while to go in and provide that we would come up with some funding, some resources to make sure that we can help them get to that last connection so that we have 100% connectivity to the people that want it in every town. So that is something that the county's been working on, and we assume we'll have some additional information shortly on that. I don't, as we were talking about some of the funds that we were rolling out with the MIG grants, the swimming pool at Eddie Collins got 150,000. That's just announced last week. Fire company got 100,000 in MIG grants for their needs. So we're fortunate that going to some of the talk about affordable housing. It was actually the Tri-County Coalition and some of the other groups that have pushed us to this month. We're adding $13 million to the Housing Trust Fund. And one of the objects of that is to provide funding for different projects, and not just projects, but I think according to the town of Northeast and the village of Miller need 25 interventions to bring housing to an even field. Intervention is assistance with SECRA, land acquisition, most importantly, either new or upgraded infrastructure, water and sewer, to ensure mixed income housing. So that's what that money is there to help provide. We think that affordable housing, even though sometimes it's a ugly word in certain communities, is essential. Every business has a help wanted sign out in front of it. Every single business. And a lot of the reasons that people aren't moving into Dutchess County, including Northern Dutchess, is the fact that they can't find places to live. We have priced ourselves out of the market to a certain degree. Great if you're a seller, and certainly a lot of people have taken advantage of that, but really a hardship for those young families or single income individuals that need a place to live. So that's one of the things that the county is trying to help every municipality. It's a little different in Fishkill and Wappinger than it is in Northeast and Pine Plains, but certainly being able to help with infrastructure seems to be the best way that we think we can help small towns do that by increasing densities in villages and stuff, and allowing accessory dwellings, because you can have a hookup to a central sewer, central water system. Seems to make sense, makes that several $100,000 lot be brought, chunked up into smaller parcels so people can afford it. So we are doing that. We're excited that Dutchess County is now the 988, excuse me, 988 suicide crisis lifeline for the area. We felt that it was necessary that we take that. So we are, I mean, we're dealing with Westchester Putnam calls, all obviously Dutchess, and a couple of other counties, but we are the 988 center. So we are doing mass infrastructure changes at the 911 center to make sure that communications are great. It's not costing the taxpayers of Dutchess County anything. The state right now is picking up all those costs. It's a pilot program to make sure that 988 is received throughout. And there will be some nice cards that we'll give all the towns to have to make sure that you are able to have them at the town hall or wherever that people can access them. Basically, talk. Yeah, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but 988 here to help 24/7. Talk with us. There is hope. Suicide has been a huge issue, and we want to try to do the best to keep it, to change the curve and drive it back down. Everybody runs through depression sometimes, and the Crisis Intervention Center down in Poughkeepsie is a great tool, but when you're sitting in northern Dutchess County, it's still 45 minutes away. So we think that this is a good tool as a intervention start and that. We also have the mobile crisis intervention van that is being built and will be just for the Route 22 corridor, may swing into Pine Plains, but mostly for the Route 22 corridor to bring mental health programs out to the Route 22 corridor. Again, making sure that people don't have to go into Poughkeepsie for those types of help. It'll be basically a roving office. I would also be able to be converted usage, not the machine itself, but if God forbid there's another outbreak and we need injection sites and everything, that's the type of unit that could do that, again, out in the rural, park it in a parking lot and move forward. I've represented my district now for 9 years. I've been chairman. This is my 5th year as chairman. Hopefully one more year of chairman. I get elected every year. I don't understand some of the process. 2 years for my term, but every year they pick a new chairman. Leadership gets to stay. The majority and minority leaders, they get 2-year terms to coincide. Somehow the chairmanship goes. So I've been proud to bring, the supervisor and I work well together. Certainly there's a great line of communication and certainly when George Kay was the supervisor here too, we had a great relationship. We've been able to do a lot for the community, I think for the best, and we'll go forward. My cell phone is the one that's on everybody thinks I'm nuts to print my personal cell phone on the website, but that's what it is. I take phone calls all the time. So if somebody needs something, let me know. The best thing we can do is point people in the right direction, and the sooner the better. So if there's any questions, any comments, I'm certainly here to take that. Any criticisms also. We're trying to do the best. I will tell you just, and not to, the 12 years I was town supervisor in Pine Plains, the county was not as responsive. And I'm not talking about my local legislature. The county itself was not as responsive to the town needs as they are. And I think that's a great change. Just a different way of feeling. I'm not throwing Bill Steinhaus under the bus. I get along well with him, but it's a different way of doing business, and I think it's worked well for us all. The old days, the same town's got money every year, and nothing changed, and you had to be in the kind of a network to get that done. And I think we've under Marcus's leadership, we opened that up, and it's a much more fair process, and the towns that truly need it get it. And sometimes they get it again and again and again, but it's because they're the ones that need it. And I think we've done a good job
and sharing that. So again, if I'll take questions now, you can contact me via email or my cell phone, but we're always here to do whatever we can do.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your coming out. Pine Plains is our sister community. We feel very, Pine Plains, Amenia, and Stanford are sort of a little neighborhood of towns.
Correct.
And we.
And we share a lot of the same problems.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And one of the issues which I know it's not one that you can address right now, but one of the issues we have here is we have an agreement to share ambulance services with Dover, Amenia, the village, and town of Northeast. And calls go out from 911 center and for mutual assistance or for sometimes into towns which do not have
Correct.
that. Stanford has just contracted NDP for BLS service. But I've had some complaints from our folks here who found themselves out of our town,
Right,
sometimes to Pine Plains, sometimes to Milan.
right. Yeah, so, we tried to address this in 05, 06. I brought together all the town supervisors from Amenia, Northeast, Pine Plains, and Stanford, thinking that was a kind of a nice little group. Our thought was that Pine Plains, Stanford would share an ambulance, Northeast Amenia would share an ambulance, and then they could, mutual aid each other. If our ambulance was out doing something, the chances of another call right there, so we had basically 2 ambulances covering 4 towns. And I'll tell you, it was a tough situation. I brought, actually Dana Smith was the EMS coordinator at that time in Dutchess County. He came out. We had fire commissioners, town supervisors, chief officers, and the captains of the rescue squad. And back in the 80s, I was the captain of the rescue squad, so I'm pretty intimate. And I was actually fortunate when I was captain of the rescue squad, we had to actually have a rule that the ambulance couldn't leave the firehouse until the duty crew got there, because we were getting the ambulance out so fast that sometimes the duty crew would arrive and the ambulance was already gone because there was enough volunteers around the town to make that happen. Obviously, fast forward, that doesn't happen anymore. But there was a town supervisor that didn't want it in one town. There was commissioners that didn't want it in another town. There was a fire chief in another town that did. So it really became, and we worked at this for almost 2 years, trying to come up with a plan to make it work. So even though it's still happening, it's not a new problem. We think that it's got to be a more regionalized approach. And again, the county will help in any way we can, but it's up to really the towns to come to us and say, we need help doing this. And I would love to see that original plan come back to fruition where Pine Plains, because I'll tell you, I've been an advocate of getting a paid service in Pine Plains for 15 or 16 years. And I keep getting told the same thing. We don't need it. We got more volunteers coming. It's not happening. I wish it did. I mean, I wish every town all of a sudden got 20 EMTs and we went back to the old system again. But we need to do that, and it needs to be equitable. You shouldn't be sending a paid squad over to Pine Plains that doesn't pay for that squad. It shouldn't be. And we did the surveys, we've done a lot of things, but there's a lot of what do I want to say? A lot of border problems, I guess. People they want to keep their own little world, but it's not going to get any cheaper. And even the paid companies are having a tough time finding help, and it's a mess. And the problem that I see is it's going to eventually spread into the fire service, and there are no paid fire services that I know of. There's nobody that's coming into your town saying, "Listen, we'll take over your fire company, and yeah, it may cost you X amount of dollars a year, but we'll make sure we'll put the water on the fire." We have to figure out a lot of different moving parts in this, but I don't know that we can ever get, at this point, I don't know that we'll ever wean ourselves off of a paid squad, but we have to make it more affordable. And the state could help. There's a lot of things the state could do to help us. And again, it's just not, in a lot of other parts, it's not, you know, you have the cities that it's not an issue in. And you have the rural communities out in the southern tier that it's not an issue in, because they still have volunteers. So you got this Hudson Valley problem. And, you know, we just don't have the representation sometimes. We have great representation, but it's just not enough sometimes to get it.
Well, it does seem to me that it's something which the county, you know, has tried to provide leadership on, and I hope it will again.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
did talk to Dana about it once, and he said that there was a study that he'd been.
Yep.
That has sort of been percolating for a while and
Right.
hopefully gets resurrected.
You know, the problem, you know, again, it comes down to the, believe it or not, the paid squads can still do it cheaper than a public entity can do it. If we had to mobilize a county workforce to do this, it would be extremely expensive. It would, you know, maybe not as much as the sheriff's budget because of the jail and everything, but it would be comparable, because you'd have to pay the wages and the benefits and everything else, which may have to happen, but it's not gonna be a cheap day.
And 24/7.
And 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So it's very similar to the sheriff's department. It becomes a very costly way of doing. So right now, the private squads do a good job filling in that need, but you know, places like Northeast and Pine Plains pay an exorbitant amount of money because we don't have the call volume. Meanwhile, down in Fishkill, they'll do it for free. Or they'll station there for free because they get enough call volume to make it worth their while.
Yeah.
But to figure that out equity wise.
Anyway, any other
Right.
members of the board have any questions for Greg at this point? Otherwise,
If you don't mind, I'll leave you guys.
Yep.
This is my 5th meeting today, which is great. I like doing it all in one shot. So
we appreciate having you come out
Yeah.
and, you know, you're always welcome. Come back.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys later.
Take care.
Okay, now we are going to go back and pick up the pieces that I left out. Which starts with town board committee activity. Thank you.
I have an update on the park.
Okay,
Phase 1 should be completed by the end of this month. And they're planning to open the park the second week in September. And then have their grand opening ceremony on October 1st. That's what they've got scheduled, so hopefully that's gonna happen. October 1st.
it's an important date. I mean, it's looking amazing to me. I mean, they poured the parking lot. I just want to see them connect the parking lot to Route 22, but, you know, it's really something. And it's going to be such a great resource for our community, for the town and the village. It's going to be amazing. I don't know how we're going to do phases 2 and 3 or whatever, however many more phases there are. Mainly, we're talking about the swimming pool, because that is a very expensive item. But just that the work that's been done, the amount of money that's been raised from residents and from, you know, from county government, from other sources, really amazing.
It'll be nice
So
to see
we
that. active.
will, and that will allow a recreation program to really get back into full swing next year.
Hopefully,
Well, it'll be,
because it'll be open, so
It
they
will
should
be
be
open.
able, yeah.
because I mean, I don't know to what extent the village has had a recreation program of any kind.
I think it's been
I-
3 years.
I know NECC still does, you know, has a variety of programs,
Mhm.
yeah, addressing different groups. But it'd be great to see that at the park.
Yes, definitely.
I think we really covered the highway committee when we mentioned what was going on there. We're going to come back to the cemetery committee next month. The next item is a resolution to accept a local law permitting the town of Northeast to exceed the New York State tax cap and set a public hearing. And we have a resolution which I would ask you to read.
Okay.
If you would.
accepting a proposed local law to override the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2023 pursuant to general municipal law, section 3C, for commencement of the local law adoption process. Whereas the town board has determined that it may be necessary for the town of Northeast to exceed the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Northeast pursuant to general municipal law, section 3-C, for fiscal year 2023. And be it further resolved, the town attorney has prepared a proposed local law to override the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2023 pursuant to general municipal law, section 3-C, and the same has been reviewed and approved by the town board members. Now therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby accepts the proposed local law for the year 2022 entitled Local Law to Override the Tax Levy Limit for Fiscal Year 2023 pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, for commencement of the local law adoption process. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing on the said local law to be held on,
Well, this would be at our next meeting, which will be, which I think I looked at today, and it's September 8th, is what I recall.
Mhm.
So why don't we say it'd be at 7:20 on
held on
on
September 8th.
Thursday, September 8th, 2022.
Okay, and that the public hearing be duly noticed by the town clerk as required by law.
Okay, as the board will recall, we have provided ourselves with the flexibility, should we need it, to override the tax cap. We've done that for quite a number of years. We don't aspire to exceed the tax cap, but when we have done so, we've tried to keep it as close to the tax cap as possible. So with that, I would, unless there's any more discussion, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Supervisor Kennen,
Aye.
Councilman Fidelli,
Aye.
Councilman Cooper,
Aye.
Councilman Midwood,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison.
Okay. So where have I left out? Okay, Warren, I don't think we are going to need a meeting with council today. At this point, there's nothing that we've spoken of which requires a meeting. So if we are happy to excuse you, if that works for you.
That does.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for attending virtually, and we look forward to seeing you here at Town Hall in the near future.
Yes, I think by September I might be able to come in person.
That would be great. Okay, thank you, Warren.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good
good
night.
night.
Aye.
The, as everybody knows, the town has been working for a number of years on the Climate Smart program of New York State. We signed up as registered as a Climate Smart community, which is pretty straightforward and very easy to do. The hard work starts the day after you do that, because to actually achieve a level of certification is a ton of work. And we've been blessed by having a Climate Smart task force over the years, chaired by Kathy Chow, and two members of the task force are here, Andrew Stamen, Rich Stalzer, and there are many other members of the task force as well. And as everybody knows, and in case we need reminding, it's now posted on the rear wall of this room over the radiator. The town of Northeast has been certified bronze status. I think that there are only two other towns in Dutchess County which have that. It's a it's a great achievement for us. And one of the final steps in that process, I should just back up by saying that's the town of Northeast, which was certified for this. We originally applied with the village to become a climate smart community for both the village and the town, but the way it works out is that each municipality has to proceed to get certified on its own. However, the village is going to benefit from a lot of the work that the town has done. So we believe that the village should be able to be certified bronze at some point within the next, I'm just gonna say within the next year. One of the projects which we are doing together is to adopt a climate action plan. And that is a set of recommendations for the village and the town. We have scheduled a joint meeting of village trustees and town board members for the 30th of August at 6 p.m. at the library annex. And I did send just before this meeting, each of you members of the board, a electronic copy of the draft climate action plan. And hopefully it will also be on the website. Hopefully you'll have a chance to look at it before the 30th. It's a very interesting document. There's a lot of information in there about what we've done, about greenhouse gas emissions and so on, and some interesting ideas of things that we could do to take ourselves to the next level. And I will encourage everybody to take a look at it before the 30th. So with this, I'm just basically telling you that you have got a copy of that document at this point. There had the federal, well, let's see, where are we? We have had a bond anticipation note for the highway garage. This will be the third year that we have had that. And each year it expires. And the town goes out and tries to find a financial institution which will loan us that money. We make a principal payment each year, and the ban is going to expire on the 19th. And so we have solicited bids from 3 different banks for a renewal of the ban. And we got proposals, one for 3.23%, one for 2.75%, and one for 2.5. One for 2.75 and one for 2.5. The lowest interest rate which is offered came from Salisbury Bank, and we are obviously going to go with that. The original ban states that the ban can be renewed by a simple motion of the board. So I'd like to entertain a motion to renew the ban and to accept Salisbury Bank's interest rate of 2.5%.
So moved.
Second.
Want to do a roll call on this? I don't think we need any motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Anyone opposed? The federal government has increased the mileage reimbursement rate for the remainder of 2022. It's gone up 50-some cents a mile at the moment, and they're setting it at 62.5 cents per mile. So I would like the board to approve the town making the mileage reimbursement rate 62.5 cents per mile, effective July 1. And this applies to code enforcement officers, dog control officer, assessor, real property data lister for town business within the town, and for all officers or employees with town business outside of the town. I'd like a motion to approve the new mileage rate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Also
Um,
about, number 12.
I'm going to pass on that.
Okay.
We're going to wait till our meeting in September to address new members of the CAC. I'll just say that I'm grateful to Rich for being willing to chair the CAC. And as I've mentioned in previous meetings, we're looking for people who are interested in serving on the CAC, and hope to come back to the board with a slate of people for that in September. With that, we come to public comment period. Yes, sir.
With respect to the Habitat for Humanity, I think Canaan has one of those houses. They did a Habitat for Humanity home years ago. So I don't know if you ever wanted to reach out to them for.
Okay. Thank you. As I said, I did visit the one in Wappinger.
Yeah.
I know there's one up in Ankrum, which has been, it's, the host of that one is a different habitat group. Ours would be Habitat of Dutchess County, and that one is a different habitat group. There have been some problems with that in terms of getting it going. So I'm interested in focusing on what the Habitat of Dutchess County has done and will be able to do. But
Canada itself.
Yeah.
Out of state.
yeah. Any other public comment? Online?
Any comment online? Raise your hand if you want to comment. I'll say no.
Okay. We're not. We have budget adjustment. We have a budget adjustment for A fund, an expense increase of $709 minus a revenue increase of $709. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the budget adjustment.
So, second.
Okay. Motion by Griff, second by Lena. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I have a special abstract dated July 28th, 2022, totaling $474.13. Broken down as follows: A fund, $474.13. Could I have a motion to accept the special abstract?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's approved. I have an abstract dated August 11th, 2022, totaling $512,022.27, broken down as follows: A fund, $52,038.41. B fund, $1,139.21. DB fund, $130,078.62. Capital projects H1, $328,412.44. TNA 2 escrow, $105. Payroll TNA $248.59. A motion to accept the abstract.
So moved.
Ralph and Griff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The voucher committee for September will be Rick Cooper, if he's back, and Ralph Fidelli. The board has been sent a set of minutes by Tilly for the meeting of July 14th, 2022. Any comments, corrections? They're pretty perfect. But with that, could I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Usually I've forgotten something. But I think we've got it. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Traveling.